Hello guys, and welcome back to the Third Triumvirate podcast. Call me a Eurymedon, because Athens and Persia be fighting over my river mouth.
Hi, I'm the Greek playboy that Socrates was in love with, Kara.
And I'm Lana. And this is the Third Triumvirate podcast.
Okay, today guys we're going to be covering the Peloponnesian Wars. Get very, very, very excited.
So these were the largest and longest of the conflicts.
The largest is a song by American rapper B.
Okay, so love that. Thank you. So these conflicts between Athens and Sparta. We'll get to these are obviously key players. Athens, Sparta.
Key players, the Delian League, the Peloponnesian League. In that, the key hegemonic figures, Athens and Sparta.
Yeah. So these two figures basically battled it out for. What are we saying? What's the official dates?
It's
460 to 404.
Yeah.
So yeah, about a 56-year-long war that rocked and the Greek world and ended with Athens basically destroyed.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Key thing to remember, there is technically two Peloponnesian Wars, but there is technically only one.
Yeah.
So the first Peloponnesian War is sort of the lead up to the second Peloponnesian War, but it's called the first Peloponnesian War, even though this unit is called the Peloponnesian War, which is really confusing. Just know the second Peloponnesian War is the Peloponnesian War.
Yeah.
But it's also called the
Yeah, so each of the
Wait, aren't there two wars?
No, there's in the second Peloponnesian War, there's the Archidemian War and the Archidamian War, and then the Ionian Deucalion.
Okay, so the first Peloponnesian War goes from 460 to 445 BCE.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, and then there's a little bit of a break in between 445 to 431. 431 to 404 is the second Peloponnesian War, which is where all the big shit happens.
Yeah.
And before this, just from prior context, we need to know that obviously we have the Peloponnesian League. The Peloponnesian League has already been instated.
Yeah.
So it is an alliance of the Peleus that are all kind of seeking defense from the military hegemon, which is Sparta. Okay?
Should we hold on. Segment introduction. Should we do Delian League versus Peloponnesian League?
Yeah. So obviously because the Peloponnesian League has already been it's already instated, we're talking about 478 is when the Delian League was instated. Originally it was at Delos. It got moved to Athens because Athens was just the key power in this sort of sense. And now we got to talk about the fact that in the instation of the Peloponnesian League, being part of the Delian League was voluntary.
Yeah.
Sorry, ad-libs.
We'll just say, so following in terms of where we just left off from the last pod, obviously, we were talking about the Greco-Persian Wars, and the impact. I thought it could be a good way to segue into it. The impact of the Greco-Persian Wars in causing the Peloponnesian Wars, in particular the formation of the Delian League.
Yes. Athens naval supremacy.
Yes. So essentially, as we probably touched on in the last podcast, during the Delian League was formed during the Greco-Persian Wars as an alliance of the sort of Ionian Aegean area against Greek Peleus against Persia. But following the Persian Wars, essentially the alliance. The league continued, but became more of an Athenian empire. So what was initially an alliance of voluntary member states that would pay tribute, financial or
triremes,
or naval military tributes to Athens, it became more of an Athenian empire. So Athens, under figures such as Cimon and Pericles, underwent a very, aggressive expansion into the Aegean.
There's a cultural shift in the Delian League. It became something less of a seeking assistance and more like you either join us, or we fight you. And Simon's
be with us or die.
Simon, very key figure with this. Before the start of the Peloponnesian Wars, he sort of created this cultural lead up to it by defeating a bunch of like different little city states and stuff like that, including there was once again, as I mentioned in my intro, naval battle with Persia at the mouth of the river Eurymedon, which basically just removed all ability for Persia to ever have any kind of like supremacy in the Aegean. Like it's like that was Persia's last sorry babes. And then Simon got a bit too big for his boots, and he did get ostracized before the start of the
as with many
First Peloponnesian Wars.
Yeah.
A lot of Athenian leaders got ostracized. It's a running theme, but we know that Simon kind of made this cultural shift of the Delian League. So it made it so the polis in the Delian League were now, a lot of them, unhappy with the fact that they were under Athenian reign. So they were actually quite upset.
So early examples, if I remember correctly, under Kimon. Hold on. Give me a freaking second, guys.
I don't even remember Kimon existed.
Simon, bro.
He was
I keep calling him Simon.
Kimon. Yeah, so under Simon,
Cinnamon.
he basically took a more aggressive approach. So rather than it being a voluntary alliance, he subdued states by force and forced them to join the league, which basically set a precedent for set a precedent for the reign of Pericles, who would basically continue that aggressive expansion, which would later be a key cause for the Peloponnesian Wars. So, but significantly, if we're going to talk about political and economic for a second, because that's my thing. So under Pericles, and with the Delian League, Athens became a very wealthy and powerful state, because they became the hegemon of this part of Greece. And the financial tributes that the Athens sort of accrued from their member states allowed Athens to become one of the most wealthiest states in Greece, and allowed them to basically rebuild. So if you haven't heard already, so there was Pericles is very known for being part of the golden age of Greece, and is especially known for his building program. So he rebuilt the Acropolis, he built a bunch of temples, and all this basically was a symbol of the immense influence and wealth that Athens had gained from the Greco-Persian Wars.
Yeah. So now I think it's time for us to go into segment 1, which is causes and early course, okay? And we're going to start off by the long-standing rivalry between Athens and Sparta. Now, when I say long-standing, it's not that long in terms of things, but it's because of, as Gara was saying, Athens was getting like insanely rich, and they were becoming incredibly powerful in terms of their influence in the Greek area of like that, and
the Aegean
specifically the fact that Athens and Sparta were very opposite in terms of the way that they ran, both militarily and politically and economically. They ran very differently, because Athens obviously a trading
very different ideologies.
Trading power. Sparta was agricultural force. Athens was a democracy. Sparta was an oligarchy and a lot of other things, but we discussed Sparta as an oligarchy. And also Athens was a naval power, where Sparta was a primarily hoplite based land power. Yeah. So their power was in their armies, Athens was in their navies, which basically made them incompatible in every way, shape, and form. They were on opposite ends of this coin. Like they were, and this led to obviously what is considered in when they're fighting each other as a military stalemate, because Athens could not beat Sparta on land. Sparta could not beat Athens by water. Yeah. And so this is why this is why they were so at odds all the time, because they were both equally as much of a threat to the other.
Yeah. So essentially, going back to the Delian League, one of the key cause of the tension which would lead to the conflict of the Peloponnesian Wars was Athens rising as a hegemon of that area of Greece, because previously Sparta was sort of just considered by default the hegemon, being, they were the state that everybody called to if they wanted help military, with whatever. Mm-hmm. So with the rise of Athens, Sparta was getting a little bit antsy. They were like, oh no, somebody's somebody's coming in. They're gonna take our spot. And so while Sparta would never admit it, they were definitely really anxious for their sphere of influence.
And that was also shown through Sparta's attitudes towards Pericles' building of the Long Walls.
Long walls. This is our favorite thing, guys.
Yes.
We do love love a good long wall in this podcast. Yeah. So essentially, Themistocles he started the construction of these things called the Long Walls, which essentially was they were then finished by Pericles, which was essentially these walls that if you could, maybe we could put a map up or something.
Put a map up.
Like, so Athens and its two ports, basically would, what's the word? Sort of like go around the circumference of Athens and also but connect it to its ports. The idea was that they were impenetrable by land, but were still able to be,
access their ports,
for
trades
and receive the essential grain imports from the Black Sea. So this meant they were basically impenetrable. Like they were impenetrable and were unable to be, besieged.
It's key that they're impenetrable by land, because once again, we got to remember, guys, Sparta is a land fighting power. Therefore, it means that, like, the reason Sparta was so threatened by this, they said it was because that if Persia ever was to invade Athens, then they would be giving Athens a virtually impenetrable city. But in reality, it was that, like, if in the case of Sparta and Athens being at odds, Sparta's key strength being land fighting would be not useless against Athens. Like, that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And that's a very, like, a key point. The First Peloponnesian War, basically what you need to know about this one is that, starting out, we have Megara. Okay, Megara is going, Corinth is getting a bit too close.
Oh, we probably need to introduce some key characters. Okay, some key states that we've got going on here. Megara, Corinth, Athens, Sparta. Is there anybody else that's like super important? Corcyra perhaps, and Potidaea.
Some of the players are like, they're like almost key figures in the sense because of the actions of the players, and some players are just like victims. And so, like, with Megara's like they're a bit pathetic, but also they do kind of almost have a personality in the sense of they're actually they have actions.
Wait, should we talk about the Peloponnesian League?
Sure, you want to talk about the Peloponnesian League?
I can talk about the Peloponnesian.
Yeah, you take it away, right?
Well, just some context for the Peloponnesian League. Obviously, it was formed way before the Delian League, and it was essentially, in terms of the differences between Athens, the Delian League and the Peloponnesian League. So it wasn't necessarily voluntary member states. It was rather, it was more like Polis Peleus in the Peloponnesian area that had formed like a military alliance already with Sparta, or conquered Spartan states. So, and these states were not necessarily, they weren't required to pay tribute or anything like that. It was more of just like, tit for tat sort of thing. And Sparta wasn't necessarily a super, for example, like, let's think about this in parenting styles. Athens was very much more of a authoritative parent. They were like, you can't fight each other, like, we're gonna get involved if you do all sort of that. Whereas it's like, that one show, what's it like, where they do a wife swap, like a household swap.
Yes.
It's basically,
this is like the Christian parents, the Orthodox Christian parents versus the hippie parents who let your kids swear.
Who literally let their kids run around and do whatever they want. That's basically Sparta. Sparta was like, I'm not getting involved with any of your shit. Like, I'm just focused on my Helots. Like,
unless you're fighting someone else outside of the Peloponnesian League, I'm not getting involved.
Literally. So they were pretty chill. But so essentially the tensions are building between Athens and Sparta. They're like, Sparta's like, bro, like, why the fuck you built I don't want you to build your long walls. And Athens is like,
it's like,
but I'm
don't build your long walls because what if Persia invades, and then Persia will have an impenetrable city, and then Athens is like, okay, I hear you, but doesn't that mean that I have an impenetrable city? And then Sparta's like, bro, what? Nah.
What the fuck? Like,
nah, bro, like, nah.
And then
Themistocles was devious about
Yes, Athens was basically like, Athens
Yeah,
was
they
like,
hid it
no,
from
no,
them.
no, no, we're not
They're
building it,
like,
we're not building it. And so I was like, okay, I believe you. I was like, yeah, so you sent a couple of envoys to like check in on the walls and stuff. We're just gonna keep them here for a little bit. And then once they're done, once our long walls are done, then they can go. So yeah, but when we didn't lie, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
So things were getting a little bit, and essentially another cliffhanger that sort of increased the tension as we all well and love is Corinth.
Now,
This motherfucker.
this raises the question, was the Peloponnesian War like inevitable due to the fact that they were just so big, and the fact that like it wasn't actually Athens and Sparta going to war against each other, it was the Peleus within the leagues fighting each other that caused Athens and Sparta to have to fight. So was the war inevitable? I think so.
I think so too.
I think so. Like, Corinth could not help but be a shit stirrer. Like, everything Corinth does is just because they know that they will be able to get a good story out of this. Like, it's...
Yeah, but also like as soon as there are two major powers that are fighting for influence, war is inevitable. Like, it's always going to end that way. No matter, like, Corinth and all the other little states, like, they were honestly minor players. Like, it would have happened
a matter of
anyway.
time.
Like, literally just a matter of time. But in terms of, some direct causes that are going on, Corinth, so during this first Peloponnesian War area, Corinth is kind of getting a bit frisky.
Let's make her a bit.
Yeah, so they encroach on the territory of this polis called Megara. And so Megara is also a member of the Peloponnesian League, but upon Corinth encroaching on their territory, Megara's like, hey, Athens.
Megara is nothing but a homie hopper, I feel.
Literally,
Like,
a homie hopper till I die.
Flop, flip,
Literally,
flip.
like bomb, 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 bomb.
Exactly.
Like, pick a side, bitch.
Yeah. I hate bisexuals. I
hate
hate bisexuals.
It spans back centuries, guys.
Genuinely.
The bisexual
Biphobia.
agenda. Yeah, the biphobia. In response, Megara basically left the Peloponnesian League and put themselves under the protection of Athens.
Athens goes, hey, Corinth, back the fuck up. And Corinth goes,
I'm telling Sparta.
I'm not gonna forget that shit, bitch.
I'm
not
telling
gonna forget
Sparta,
that.
you bitch. I'm telling Sparta, you bitch. And then so because of this, like, blah,
bunch of little battles, and then Sparta.
Wait, hold on. Wait, what's going on?
What was the thing we made up?
Oh,
about
yeah. So
the,
essentially,
love triangle. It was like Megara is. Wait, I don't remember.
We said Megara is James, Sparta is Betty, and Athens is Augustine.
Yes.
Oh. Okay, so in the lead up to the war, so obviously we know that the Delian League in Athens is like doing their crazy aggressive expansionism thing. Like, they're like clearly like boom, 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 like we're trying to tussle. They're like feeling confident, right? So they land on the island near the Peloponnese of Aegina.
Yeah.
Which is key because it signaled sort of Athens' growing interest in the Peloponnesian region.
That is, yeah.
And so Aegina basically was like, fuck no, I don't want this fucking
also,
crazy
Aegina's
ass
very
bitch.
important because Aegina's a very, very key place to do with trade. Like, trade in that area, bitch, that should go through Aegina.
Well, yeah, no, and that's like the Corinthian isthmus as well. That's just why
Yeah.
the Megara thing was so important because Athens basically helped Megara build some long walls as well. Like, and because Megara was so close to the Corinthian isthmus, which it basically allowed Athens to like take both sides of the isthmus, which would prevent like Sparta from coming through. So it was a good place to, good ally to have. Unfortunately, they fucked that up a little bit. But that's fine.
They tend to fuck up a lot of their allies.
Yeah, they really do. Anyway, Athens defeats Aegina, whatever. And then Corinth attacked Megara, and then basically they just kind of like they just They were fucking fighting. The girls are fighting. Real bad.
Fighting.
And all this sort of led to the first direct conflict between Sparta and Athens, which was the Battle of Tanagra in 458, 57. And so Athens actually was defeated, but Sparta really didn't, like, because again, the long walls and stuff, Sparta didn't actually couldn't actually go and like raise a city, but they didn't even try. So Sparta basically, like, they defeated them on the plains of Tanagra, and then were like, you know what, we're gonna dip. Like, Sparta was really just like, you know what, let me hold off.
This is like Hannibal all over again. Just march.
Literally, just march,
bitch.
Just do it.
Oh my god. Like, if Sparta had marched, bitch, like.
But honestly, like, it makes sense for Sparta's, like, ideas at the time. But honestly, like, they should have just done it, like, low key.
Yeah.
But anyway, following that, they signed two peace treaties. So first was the 5 years peace, and then the 30 years peace. Surprise, surprise, both were fucking broken within like well, the 30 years peace was broken within like fucking 2 seconds. But essentially, what was significant about the peace treaties is that they revealed the states' like little anxieties like about one another. So Sparta wanted Athens to give up any of the territories that it had gained in the Peloponnese, which showed how Sparta was like low-key anxious about Athens' growing influence, and also prevented allies from changing sides, because as we know, Megara was like going like flip flop, flip flop,
and
flip
that's
flop.
like annoying for both sides. Like,
Literally.
it's like, well, okay, now we don't have Megara anymore, and then the other side loses Megara, and like it's all like they broke, we up, and it's just that's the entirety of the Peloponnesian War. It's like, okay, we up now. They're down, no peace. Okay, we up now, they down, no peace.
Literally. So, and then also, and then Athens wanted recognition from Sparta of the Athenian Empire. So, yeah, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But however, both sides kind of continued to do it. Well, especially Athens continued to kind of do whatever the fuck they wanted. Athens continued to expand. And Pericles just was like, let me go and let me go.
And also, the peace treaty was broken because Athens helped Corcyra against Corinth. Corinth was trying to expand as well.
So true.
They were trying to fight Corcyra. Athens was like, hang on, that's my boy. And they fought Corinth. And as you know, the moment Athens steps in to stop Corinth from doing anything, Corinth goes,
Dad!
fucking excuse me, and
Sparta,
then they run to
Sparta.
Papa, and yeah,
It's literally Draco.
and also
Corinth is Draco.
my father will hear about this. Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
And also Megara. You remember Megara back in the day? You know, flip flop, flip flop. Athens got sick of Megara's shit, and they were like, actually, I'm gonna stick a decree on you. A decree the fuck out of you, bitch. No more grain. You actually cannot trade.
You cannot trade anywhere within the Athenian
that's
sphere.
crazy.
You're gonna actually famine and die.
Yeah, you're gonna famine and die. You're gonna get so hungry.
Yep.
And you're gonna be so hungry.
Yeah.
And Megara was like, oh, excuse me, Sparta. And then Sparta was like, Athens. Stop.
Bro,
Take away the
come on, please.
Take away the decree. And then Corinth was like, get him. And then Sparta was like, come on, Athens. And Athens was like,
Oh wait, we forgot this one thing. Potidaea. Because Corinth was so mad about the whole Corcyra thing, because Sparta was basically like, because after the battle between Corcyra and Corinth, and then obviously Athenians aligned with Corcyra, after that, and they so Corinth basically seized facilities, but then Corinth was like, bro, fucking Sparta, they friggin' broken the 30 years peace. They broke the 30 years peace. They violated the terms. And Sparta's like, bro, can you just calm down? Just calm down, please.
I can't handle
Sparta's like one of those mums that work like the night shifts. They're just like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got so much going on at home. Like, just shut the fuck up.
They don't want to have to fight these battles for their kids, like, genuinely.
Literally.
But
So, what Corinth does, Peggy? Anyway. So, essentially, Corinth goes out on its own and supports Polis Potidaea against Athens. However, Potidaea was soundly felled by Athens.
Yeah.
And completely just
Defeated.
And then Megara.
Megarian decree, and all these things kind of added up. And after a while, Sparta was like, "Fine, I guess I'll make my way over to Athens." And then they were like, "Athens."
So yeah, so they have like a little meeting. They have a meeting. They call up all the policies. They go, "Hello," and they all sort of speak. They all sort of state their claims, whatever. Sparta goes, "Okay." Sparta goes, "Boy, what you're doing is fucking wrong. Like you need to chill the fuck out. You need to just
Stop.
Just stop. You need to revoke the Megara decree. You need to end the siege of Potidaea and free Aegina, and give back." So is their final sort of terms was so end Megara decree, free Potidaea, free Aegina, and give the Greeks back their autonomy. So end the Athenian Empire. Pericles, of course, was like, "Fuck no, I am not doing that shit. We've got money, we've got naval power, we are all set to just beat your asses. Let's do that." Yeah. And so Sparta officially declared. So Sparta declared war, and the peace was officially broken when rival polises Thebes attacked Plataea.
Okay. So this is the Second Peloponnesian War, or the Peloponnesian War. Okay.
This is where actually war. It's war.
It's war. This is actually Sparta versus Athens. This isn't just like the Peleus. This is like Sparta versus Athens. Now we can go into defensive strategies. So the strategies of Athens and Sparta. Okay. So
please talk to us about it.
Okay. Under Pericles' rule, obviously because of the construction of the long walls, Athens had the perfect opportunity. They're all laid out for them to just do a straight up defensive strategy. So the population of Athens hid in the long walls, and they would use their naval ships to go out and harass the Peloponnesian coast, basically just attacking the coastlines and stuff like that, but never actually really entering onto the mainland, because obviously at that point that was Sparta's sphere of influence. Okay. This led to a few problems. Obviously, the Athenian population is quite large, and obviously since the walls themselves can't really get any bigger, they were quite packed in. That's important. We have to remember, like, Pericles' defensive strategy had some downsides. Now, Spartan strategy was basically, we are going to destroy everywhere else in Attica that isn't Athens. We are going to ravage their land, okay? We're going to destroy all their farms, everything like that. Like, Athens, you walk outside Athens and it looks like a scene from Fallout 4. Like, literally. It is insane. Like, that was...
Post-apocalyptic.
Very, very bad. Like, not looking good for the Athenian countryside.
No.
There's no cute little, like, farms anymore. Like, none of that.
So Athens, because of this, Athens' population was basically all packed within the long walls, and also they were relying pretty much entirely on their grain imports from the Black Sea.
Because they didn't have any grain.
So remember that, guys.
All gone. And now, because of this, because of the close packed in nature of it, in 430 BCE, a little bug let loose in Athens.
Oh, are you feeling...
Am I feeling...
Lana, is that blood coming from your mouth?
Oh my god. Oh no. Oh, it smells like a third of the Athenian population lost to a plague that was let loose in Athens.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Plague.
Now, question here, guys. Was Athens doomed from the plague?
Were they?
Do you think so?
Personally, I don't think so.
Neither.
Because if we think about it really, yes, they lost a shit ton of people and a fuck ton of just, of important military stuff and whatever. They came back. And honestly, they fought for a long time post-plague, and they were
fine.
Yeah, not only did they, honestly, the only thing that was really a negative impact, like obviously the loss of men was kind of bad, but the real, like, one of the greatest, like, probably negative, impact of the plague was the attitudes of the people, because the people were just fed the fuck up.
They were down.
They were like, bro, like, I'm so tired. Like, my land is gone. I'm sick. I'm so sick and tired and like my family is dying off,
And it's Pericles'
and it's
fault.
all Pericles' fault. Like, I'm poor as fuck. I'm literally, I'm sick.
dying.
I'm sick
Bring
as
out
hell.
your dead.
Like,
Bring out your dead. Like, and then also another key thing about this is because Athens has now been weakened. And that's not a good look for the Delian League. People, like, players in the Delian League would be like, okay, so we already didn't like you, and now you're weak? Like, oh my god, like, why? I may as well just revolt. And so, obviously, now, as karma goes about, Pericles does end up dying in 429.
yeah, after he is dismissed from office after popular, what's the word? Just like
It wasn't
popular
ostracized.
discontent.
Yeah.
He,
didn't like him.
people just were like, fuck this guy.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, the Peloponnese are invading Athens and stuff like that. And people in the Delian League start revolting. Key one,
Mytilene.
Mytilene.
So following the plague in Athens, we see a rise of two new sort of political figures. We have Cleon, and Brasidas, Cleon is typically was typically referred to as a demagogue by post historians. He was pretty aggressive. He was a very radical democratic. He wanted basically just to fight and kill everything that had two legs and to stand on, and Sparta. Whereas Cleon was a more conservative military general who basically was the main sort of leader of the peace faction in Athens. And so when Mytilene started to revolt, Cleon basically was the one that squashed the revolt and elected that and sort of put forth a proposal that they kill all of the citizens. Literally everybody. They completely raze the city and kill everybody, or the entire population. Basically commit genocide onto the entire sort of city. So that genuinely, like, believe it or not, that genuinely passed. Like that, it passed through the assembly. However, in the morning they did go, oh, hold on, that was kind of intense. They killed the prisoners that they killed the 1,000 Mytilene sort of soldiers, prisoners that they had, but they didn't end up killing the whole population. But it's a good example of how the show, it sort of demonstrates the flaws of the Athenian government at the time. While we do love democracy, the issue is that because there was no sort of progression in terms of systems. As soon as something was passed by the assembly, it was done, it was going. And so the decisions of the assembly were basically just like all over the place. They would change constantly, and it would depend on the leader at the time and then the attitudes of the people. So it was a major weak point for Athens.
Yeah. Bear in mind, all of these events during this time, most likely the Peloponnese were invading Attica. They were just doing that a lot.
Yeah. Keep that in mind.
That's just happening in the background. Just assume it is.
Yeah.
All right. We can move on to
Pylos.
Pylos? You want to do Pylos?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Wait, what else we got?
Yeah, that's 425. 427. Fall of Plataea to Sparta.
It's basically just there's a lot of like mini battles.
A lot of mini battles, but they're not actually key battles.
Yeah.
We'll go to Pylos. Pylos is very important.
So essentially what was so significant about Pylos is wait, hold on. I'll tell the story.
Yeah.
So in 425, Athenians sent a bunch of ships to cities to Sicily to help Athenian allies against Syracuse. However, because of a storm, they were sort of stranded in this little thingy in the Peloponnese, this place in the Peloponnese called Pylos. And then so this guy called Demosthenes was like, wait, okay, so we're here in the Peloponnese. Let's take this massive opportunity to build a fort, a garrison here, which really frightened Sparta. Sparta was like,
get out, bro, get
Get
out,
out, you're the Peloponnese. Yeah,
take my house.
And so because so Sparta basically withdrew its army from Attica and sent it off to Pylos. But the battle for some reason, but the battle Athens was majorly successful, and the wounded Spartans basically retreated to this island called Sphacteria. And then the day, in the next following days, Athens and Sparta had a major battle at Sphacteria, in which most poignantly, the Spartiates surrendered. So the Spartiates and their allies surrendered.
Never in my life. That a Spartan, number one, would surrender. Number two, turn their back and walk away.
Exactly.
What happened to the 300?
This was the first time in Sparta's however long history, 300-year history, that they have their 200-year history of being a military state, have they ever surrendered. We saw in the Greco-Persian Wars that they were more likely to just stay and all die than surrender. So that was really crazy. This was really beneficial for Athens, because they received they received about 300 hostages, and 120 of those hostages were full Spartiate citizens, which is that was crazy, guys. Because remember, they don't actually have that many full Spartiates. So it's in the idea that they actually have them as hostages was really crazy, because that allowed Athens to basically use them as what's it called? Ransom. So guys, basically Athens was like, hey Sparta, don't attack Attica. I've got your Spartiates. Yeah. They will die. So following that, this lovely little Spartan general his name is Brasidas. Brasidas nuts. Brasidas nuts.
What? Doesn't even make sense, bro.
Brasidas nuts?
Brasidas nuts? What does that mean?
I don't know. She Brasidas on my Cleon till Amphipolis.
Yep. That makes more sense.
Cool. So, Amphipolis?
Okay, so basically, Sparta sent this general known as Brasidas. He wasn't known as his name was Brasidas.
His name was Brasidas.
To northern Greece, basically to see if he could get some of the Athenian allies to surrender, to defect to Sparta. He was so fucking successful. When I say he was able to do this.
With words.
He did this so well. Yeah, he had a way with freaking words.
Considering he was Spartan, that's crazy.
Yeah. Considering he was freaking Spartan, that was literally insane.
He stopped being educated at the age of 7.
Yeah, and he was able to be like, hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
He just went,
hi.
And
but like Aquaman.
It was also really, it was really good because it was important because Thrace not only had a lot of Athenian allies, but also was very rich in silver and just natural resources that would have been which were crucial to Athens, which would also be useful for Sparta. So Brasidas' biggest achievement was getting the polis Amphipolis, the city Amphipolis, to defect, which made Athens really super mad. Really super mad.
Really super mad.
Really super mad. And so there was a lovely little battle between Sparta and Athens, and Cleon. So Cleon came with his army, and they fought. Sparta lost, but both Cleon and Brasidas. Sparta won, but both Cleon and Brasidas are now dead.
See, Cleon dying in that war made sense. Brasidas, correct me if I'm wrong, there were 7 Spartans killed and Brasidas was one of them.
Yeah, Brasidas,
he just got really unlucky.
He got really unlucky.
Now, in the future, insert here, Cleon x Brasidas fanfiction your account.
Please.
That is a tragic death, and they died in the battlefield together.
I bet you.
I sense this is a thing.
Yeah, 100%.
If not, I will have to write it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's going to be going underneath my Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, Cleopatra love triangle challenges AU.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so tea.
Sorry. Oh my god. I was this is okay. This is off topic. Hold on. Pause. Welcome.
Cutesy. Okay, so with Cleon dead, some I think there's a couple of questions. So historians have basically been saying that Cleon was the factor that prevented Athens from reaching a peace treaty.
Mm-hmm.
So with Cleon dead, so the greatest obstacles to peace. Plutarch said he was the greatest obstacles to peace.
Mm-hmm.
So both Athens and Sparta we need a break. We need a break from the fighting. And so Nicias was kind of like, hey guys,
Peace
and
love, no more war.
Peace. I made a piece. It's called the Peace of Nicias, and I would really love
Nicias.
if you would guys listen to that. And they were like, okay, cool. So essentially, whether or not it was most beneficial for Athens or Sparta, it's kind of different because Sparta obviously did just win Amphipolis, and so historians basically Athens was probably more needing the thing, but Sparta also had suffered losses from Pylos and also just wanted to deal with the Helots because obviously them being away all the time is not very good. So yeah, and they hadn't been super successful with their whole laying Attica to waste strategy, and as we know also we haven't really touched on it, but a lot of these times throughout this sort of period there've been a lot of revolts on Athens as well. So Athens is kind of we're kind of losing control of the Aegean, and we need some time to just sort of recenter, relax, and just reconquer. And so the peace was intended to last 50 years, and the terms were so anybody could travel to any panetheic sanctuaries or Delphi without hindrance. All disputes between Athens and Sparta would be settled according to law. Both sides would surrender their territorial gains, and both sides would return their prisoners of war. Immediately, they didn't do half of this shit. So immediately, neither Athens or Sparta got rid of their territorial gains. They did return their prisoners of war, but Athens continued territorial expansion and continued to regain their power in the Aegean.
Athens got greedy. They had a taste of power, and then they were like, oh my god, let me do this to the fullest extent, let me keep going.
Literally. And then also another key thing. So the idea is that the other policies, not just Athens and Sparta, also had to agree to the peace treaty, but some key Peloponnesian allies, such as, you guessed it, freaking Corinth, as well as Megara, obviously, and Boeotia, refused to sign it because so Corinth had lost territory, Megara had lost its port and access to trade, and then it was just they were not happy. They had suffered a lot of losses, and they were like, I am not happy with this. And so you know what fucking Corinth does? Begins actively working to fucking break the peace. Because of course they do. They basically, because there was previously Sparta had a little spat with Argos. And that peace treaty was coming to an end. And so Corinth kind of was like, this is a good opportunity. And so they reached out to Argos and was like, hey, we kind of fucking hate Sparta at the moment. They're not being a very good hegemon. Why don't you come and be make our own little alliance, and maybe you can retake power in the Peloponnese. So yeah, that was what was going on. And yes, and
so the peace of Nicias was ridiculously fragile. No one really technically agreed to it. It was very up in the air over what the terms actually the terms were there, but it was up in the air whether each individual polis would follow them. And a lot of the time, the reason that obviously the peace was so fragile is because people just didn't obey it. Yeah. And people just didn't go by the rules, and therefore the peace just couldn't last. Yeah. While Corinth was being a shitstorm and Athens was continuing to expand.
Literally.
And I feel like Sparta in a lot of these situations, it's I kind of feel bad.
Yeah, me too.
It's Sparta literally just wanted to deal with their own shit, and they kept getting dragged into stuff by Corinth, and Athens was just allowing it. Yeah. And it's just...
Athens just wanted to fight. Athens is like your little sibling who is just upset that, I don't know.
Yeah, but now they've gotten taller than you.
Yeah, literally. They want to prove themselves. And so Athens is obviously continuing its aggressive expansion of the Aegean, including and Athens also forged a military alliance with Argos, and also after and destroyed Melos.
Mm-hmm.
So Athens destroyed Melos, kind of really like needlessly. Melos was kind of like, because remember guys, independence and autonomia was a really important value of Greek city-states, and with the whole Athenian Empire and like its being a hegemon, it was infringing on that independence. And so Melos was kind of like, hey guys, like we don't really want to be a part of this league, like do you mind if we just like be our own thing, we don't want to get into the conflict. And Athens was like, fuck no, let me just wipe out your entire fucking thing. So that was just kind of rude.
Athens had a lot of pent up issues, I sense. It's once again younger sibling syndrome, and also just like they got a taste of power. They finally become a hegemon. Sparta's been a hegemon.
Literally.
Like it's just, it's too much for them to handle all at once, and they got power hungry and they kind of went insane.
And like most significant, it says here, Athens did not fear powers that were equal to them, namely Sparta, but instead feared the small, insignificant states. This is really significant. So when you think about it like this, Sparta feared its Helot population, and Athens feared its
Helot population.
It's the states, the member states of the Delian League, because revolt, in this case, revolt begets revolt. So if members of the Delian League started to revolt, other members, because they knew that they weren't being a very like lovely parent to them. They were just like, they knew that. So they were like really like they could not afford for their allies to revolt. And so this just sort of sprinkled all these sort of things, like we're sprinkling the seeds that would lead to the Decilian and Ionian the resumption of the war in 414. Okay, but we will come back to that, but we're going to take a break. So we'll see you guys later.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
This is segment 2 on the Sicilian expedition, okay?
This is my freaking... I have a love-hate relationship with the Sicilian expedition.
Do you want to see you?
Sure.
Yeah, bro. This seems like your area.
Okay.
Because I'm less confident on the Sicilian expedition in terms of my knowledge.
I love the Sicilian expedition.
I just kind of feel like...
Oh, feel free to ask questions, guys, because this is my thing. So background on me, bro. Love Sicily. Shout out to my Sicilian grandmother. Ciao, ciao. But basically, let's get into it. So this is where, obviously, we're still in the peace of Nicias, but the Sicilian expedition was basically this major sort of cause for the the renewal of the Peloponnesian Wars. Essentially, enters our key figures at this point are still Nicias, but we got a new figure who's sort of arisen in the world of Greek politics.
Squad.
And his name is Alcibiades.
I'm bringing sexy back.
Basically,
Yeah.
Alcibiades is one hot motherfucker, okay? If you do not know who Alcibiades is, he was a Greek politician and just overall playboy.
Image of Lestat from
Literally. He is fan cast by Sam Reed. If you don't know who that is, search it up. Go watch Interview with the Vampire so you can talk to me about it. But essentially, he was so sexy. Everybody wanted him, and everybody was just like, this man can do no wrong. He was particularly loved by Socrates, who was just like, bro, I love this man.
Yeah.
Like, he was like,
my man.
He was like, Socrates is like, I know nothing, but I do know that this man is fucking jacked.
Socrates is Basil,
Alcibiades is Dorian
literally. Let's get into it. But so essentially, so just with some background on the Sicilian expedition. Sicily at the time there's a bit of conflict in Sicily between basically Sicily and Syracuse are kind of going toe for toe, right? And before the peace of Nicias, Sicily kind of reached out to Athens a couple of times, being like, hey, like, can we get some help? Like, that'd be great. And Athens was kind of like, oh, like, yeah, we'll definitely think about it, but like nothing's really certain. But so during the peace of Nicias, basically Alcibiades was like, hey guys, you know what would be a really crazy great idea? Let's go to Sicily.
Expand west.
Let's go over there. A couple of reasons why he wanted to do this. Not only was he just like, raring to go, ready for a fight, but also one of his main proposals was that Athens could accrue a great deal of wealth and power in the Sicilian area, and the promise of wealth and expansion was kind of why in the end the Athenian assembly decided, you know what, fuck it, let's do this. Nicias was the other politician, as we've mentioned before, was vehemently opposed to this expedition. He was like, this is not going to end well. This is not very good. Like, this is kind of fucked. But Alcibiades, the sexy ass man that he was, basically convinced the assembly to vote yes.
By Morgan.
This was him. So I really think that it would be like kind of hot if we like this is like
I think that we should go to Sicily.
We should go to Sicily.
To do that. I think we should expand into Sicily.
And that would be just like an amazing opportunity. But yeah. So unfortunately, however, a couple of days, I think, before that Alcibiades was due to leave for this expedition, drama broke out in Greece. Because Alcibiades was known for being a bit of a party boy. He was kind of,
Fuck bitches, get money.
Literally, he was that girl, like, whatever. However, so, it was discovered that these Athenian herms, which are kind of like statues, that like religious statues, had been broken. And they were considered they were significant because they were considered like a protection against bad luck. And so being broken, they were like, this is a really bad omen for this expedition. And guess who the Athenians blamed? Well, who we found out who was responsible. Everybody basically blamed Alcibiades because he had been engaged in sacrilegious activities prior. And so him and his mates kind of just were like,
it's jealousy.
Literally. They were all jealous of him, but in the end, they decided, you know what, Alcibiades, get the fuck out. He was actually exiled. Unfortunately, the Sicilian expedition was still planning on going ahead, but the guy who was all for it had left. So who is now in charge of the Sicilian expedition? Nicias.
Dragging his feet.
Literally, the guy who really, really did not want to go is now in command of the Sicilian expedition. You know how fucking stupid that is? Whatever, we'll get into it later. But so they head off to Sicily. They early on they encounter a couple of like early successes against Syracuse. However, in early 414, they lost their advantage. When a Spartan general arrives to help out Syracuse on the advice of guess who? Alcibiades. He is mad as fuck. He is so mad that he got exiled that he decided, you know what, I'm gonna go help out Sparta because I'm gonna go be like, hey Sparta, guess you have the most amazing opportunity right now to fuck shit up.
Quote, and I picked in bed, so I hit him in the DMs like, hey big head,
literally.
Remember when I was your woman crush? He said yeah. Like, that's literally, Alcibiades is fuck his best friends and make them yes.
Exactly. And he is that girl. I am an Alcibiades defender because, like, you know what, if I was that sexy, I would be doing the exact same thing. He's just fucking shit
Shame
up.
his playboy ways. When in doubt, he normally was okay in the theatre of politics.
Literally, like he probably would have.
God forbid work-life balance.
Literally, like we'll see later when he comes back and helps out Athens. He wins a string of fucking successes. It's just his personal life kind of got in the way, but hey. Essentially, after a while, so there's a couple of battles. Sparta kind of comes in, helps out, and a surprise attack is launched on the Athenian forces at Epipolae, and and Athens suffered a major defeat. When I say major, I mean fucking major. Also, like going back to the whole Nicias thing, they were kind of like, let's withdraw the strategy, let's withdraw the army. Like Demosthenes was like, okay, we gotta go. However, because Nicias basically opposes this, and the resulting delay meant that the Syracusans were able to blockade Athens and prevent them from leaving, which led to basically the entire Athenian fleet wiped out. So all the men and all the fleet wiped out. So here we go. So the naval defeat was compounded by their lack of allies, their strategic miscalculations, and shortages of money and supplies. The Athenians neglected their dead and wounded, which went against Athenian tradition of burying their dead, refused Demosthenes' command to regroup and board the ships, which still numbered 60, delayed their departure, which allowed Syracuse to gain the tactical advantage. So if you want to know, so the overall losses that Athenians suffered was insane. We're talking 134 triremes, so around over 20,000 rowers, and 5,000 hoplites. Oh wait, hold on. What is this? There's more triremes.
That's the
Wait, hold on. Okay, no, here we go. No. So they lose. The numbers are 134, 100, like almost, so just about 200 triremes arrive in Sicily. And the out of that number, 110 Athenian ships are lost. No, wait, what? I literally am so fucking confused. Boy. So 50 ships are lost. Okay. Recap, cut that out. We're doing this again. So 110 Athenian ships that participated in the Great Harbour Battle, 50 of them are lost. And of the 40,000 Athenians who are on land with the Syracusans, facing the Syracusan attacks, only 7,000 Athenians survive. Like, that's over what? That's like almost, how much is that? Like over three quarters of the Athenian soldiers die. This is detrimental. As Thucydides say, the Athenians were utterly and at all points defeated. Fleet and armies perished from the face of the earth. Nothing was saved, and many who went home, few returned home. And many who went forth, few returned home. This was, the response of this in Athens was insane. So everybody was the confidence of Athens suffered greatly. Everybody was so mad and so upset. Honestly, Thucydides was like, it's insane that after that, the catastrophic loss of Sicily, that the Athens was still able to hold out for another 10 years against Sparta. But most significantly, this battle officially broke the Peace of Nicias, and and we enter now into the Decelean or Ionian War. I'm just going to call it the Ionian War because it's easier to say.
We pause for a second, take a break, and I'm just going to quickly... Hello!
Amazing! And we're back. So now we enter into the final 10 years of the Peloponnesian War. So the first couple years of the Ionian War are kind of characterized by the same sort of stuff. So a bunch of minor battles between Athens and Sparta over different palaces. So for example, what's a good example? Doesn't really matter, but essentially, so let's just say Athenian ally revolts. Sparta comes in, takes a city. Athens comes in, takes it back. Sparta comes in, takes it back. Athens comes in, takes it back
Bunch
again.
of pawns.
So it's literally there's minimal direct conflict between Athens and Sparta directly. Rather, it's just them fighting for overall hegemony of the of Greece. But significantly, what happens is we've got cut that out, haters. But we've got a key figure now again at play, and his name is of course Alcibiades. So after the Sicilian War, he kind of aligns himself with Sparta because of course he does, and is sort of trying to win their trust because Sparta is obviously, as they should be, pretty cautious because he's an Athenian. So he's like basically going around trying to convince other states to join the Spartan League. And most significantly, when both at this time, both Athens and Sparta basically call out for Persia for help. So they want the allyship of Persia. And so what Alcibiades forms a relationship with a Persian satrap whose name is Tissaphernes, and they're able to facilitate an alliance between Persia and Sparta. So Persia is now aligned with Sparta, and we'll sort of come back to that later because the alliance between Persia and Sparta becomes really significant later on. But in terms of Alcibiades, he's really trying to win the trust of Sparta, and he's kind of done it. But then drama strikes because of course it fucking does.
He can't keep it in his pants.
He cannot keep it in his pants. So apparently, allegedly, what happened was Alcibiades was actually sleeping with the Spartan king's wife and might have possibly got her pregnant. And so the king at the time was like, oh my god, fuck this guy, and ordered Alcibiades to be executed. And of course Alcibiades is like, nah, fuck no, I don't want to be executed. So he goes running back to Athens. It's like, hey guys. And he officially makes his way back into Athens with the sort of oligarchic coup of what's it called?
I have a question.
Yes.
What is an oligarchic coup?
So basically, when you have a political system that is set up in a way that is not an oligarchy, like for example, Athens is a democracy, for something to be a coup, it means it's been taken over. So the oligarchic coup of Athens was when Athens' democracy was instead taken over by instead an oligarchic political system.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So essentially, Alcibiades goes to Samos, where there was a sort of oligarchic an oligarchic revolution there, which was eventually overthrown again by the democratic faction. But so Alcibiades kind of goes to the oligarchic rebels, if you will, and goes, hey, why don't you send a delegation over to Athens and see if you have any success there? Surprise, surprise, they had a lot of success there because at the time, Athens obviously was very sorely losing, and they were overall pretty unhappy with the state of their government and how it was being ruled at the time, or governed at the time. And so the Athenian democracy was replaced by a oligarchy known as the 400, which was then later replaced by the 5,000. Meanwhile, Alcibiades is elected general in Samos, and they become really loyal to him. Everybody loves him. And one of the first and only sort of decrees of the 5,000 was to overturn Alcibiades' exile so he can come back to Athens. After a while, so the 5,000 proved to be pretty unsuccessful, like the oligarchy in Athens proved to be pretty unsuccessful.
it's the whole thing about the vindication of a political system. Like, it's like that whole thing about the Athenian democracy was vindicated by the Greco-Persian Wars.
Yeah.
And then due to the fact that they're now losing, they're like, oh wait, maybe the political system is shit. And so they do a different one, doesn't work either. Therefore, that political system isn't vindicated, so they have to kick it out again.
Yeah. So by 410, the Athenian democracy is reinstated back to as it was before. But main difference is now they have Alcibiades. This was incredibly important. This was a crazy turn of events for Athens. Under Alcibiades' command, they win like quite a few naval battles in various places. And yeah, so they keep winning. And
all I do is win.
So the battle at Sinope is one of their naval wins. And so the resurgence of Athenian victories basically is a what's the word? It reinstates the Athenian confidence. So suddenly they're like, yay, we can actually do this.
Yeah, come on,
Like,
guys.
what that like maybe we can defeat Sparta. Because Athenians are nothing if not overconfident.
Optimistic,
as soon as they get a whiff of victory, they're like, okay, guys, we've actually got this. And so what happens is Sparta offers over the course of their couple of naval wins, their naval victories, Sparta offers peace terms to Athens, which are ultimately rejected by the assembly because they're
winning,
like,
they're up.
Yeah, we're up, and you know, if the Athenians are up, then sensibility is down.
Quit while you're up.
Yes, yeah, quit while you're fucking ahead, bro. And so essentially in this period, the Peloponnesian fleet is destroyed, and they're winning a bunch, but enter a new figure in Sparta, and his name is Lysander, and he was appointed as the head of the Spartan navy in around 408. Because around this time, so Sparta was becoming increasingly sort of dissatisfied with the Persian satrap Tissaphernes, because under Alcibiades' instruction, he's kind of not doing shit. He's kind of just sort of he's not really helping. So they bypass him and they form a relationship, and specifically Lysander forms a relationship with Prince Cyrus, who is the son of the king. I think his name is Darius II, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
yes, Darius II, to oversee the Ionian region. I also I'm really hoping, if I search it up, that there will be a Lysander Prince Cyrus fan fiction. I pray to God there is somewhere.
We should develop a list of fan fictions that we need out there, and if they're not out there, then we just need to write them.
Exactly. So essentially, Cyrus ignores Tissaphernes and basically funds the establishment of a new Peloponnesian navy. This is crazy, guys.
Guys, lest we forget, what was Sparta good at? Not navy. They weren't good at navy. They didn't have navy.
Nope.
What do they have now?
They do have now,
Navy.
and the money. So the immense amount of the crazy amount of money that Cyrus puts into Sparta basically allows them to build and train and become a relatively effective naval power. So by the Oh yeah, so obviously at this point we've got two pretty what's the word, successful commanders. We've got Lysander and we've got Alcibiades. Alcibiades is like, let me fucking take this bitch. Let's go. And so they intend to meet at a battle in Notium. However, because Alcibiades is again fucking Alcibiades, he while they're sort of like what's the word, like while they're sort of docked there, just like waiting for to meet the battle, Alcibiades goes off to just sort of like have a drink with a mate, leaving his second command in charge. And so his second in command is like, while he's there, Alcibiades is like to him, okay guys, bro, like, can you just make sure, just stay here for a bit, like,
Yeah,
just
sure,
like, you know,
trust, I'll stay here.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go, like, I'm just gonna catch up with the mate.
Yeah, but I'm actually a political figure in ancient history, which means I only care about myself and how much glory I can get. So I'm actually gonna take these ships and go do the thing that you're gonna do, hey?
Yeah.
But do it myself, because I think I'm a better military commander than you, actually, and maybe even more sexy, in my own personal opinion.
So of course, he was dead wrong. This guy, I don't remember his name, Antiochus, basically is, I'm gonna take a couple of ships and some guys. We're gonna go see if we can win this thing. Leaving a shit ton of ships on the deck. You know what fucking Lysander does? Because he's smart. He comes in, he destroys all the docked Athenian ships, and then defeats Antiochus and his army. They all die. Everybody's defeated. And then the Athenian assembly is like, oh my freaking God, are you freaking joking me? We let this guy back in and he's just betraying our trust again. And so they do what they do best. They exile Alcibiades. And Alcibiades, well, he didn't, they take away his power, and Alcibiades flees to Thrace, where he lives out the rest of his days. So that's the end of Alcibiades. But unfortunately, so what this means now, we've got this common problem with the Athenian assembly, is that because they're so volatile and they're changing their minds all the time, we're having this problem where we're losing, Athens is losing experienced military commanders all the time. So they're having to bring new ones in, and then they're getting kicked out. Notably, the Battle of Arginae, at the Battle of Arginae, these two that were led by these two pretty experienced commanders, they won the battle, but they lost. But they, like, there was a lot of like Athenian dead, right? And these two commanders didn't make the call they didn't retrieve any of the soldiers who were in the water or anything like that. They didn't retrieve them. And this, which was custom, which is very, very disrespectful. And so the Athenian assembly basically killed and or exiled all of the commanders that were in charge of that of Arginae, even though they won. And so this meant that they literally, in the final sort of days, in the final battles that ensued, they didn't have any experienced commanders. They were fucked in that regard. And so yes, and so again, because the Peloponnesian fleet was again defeated, but was again rebuilt by Cyrus. And then we enter the final battle. We've got Agospotami in 405.
Agospotami.
So which was kind of the idea was, so Lysander goes to Lampsacus, in the Hellespont, which was really important for connecting Athens to their grain. And so Athens is like, oh fuck, we got to go there too. And so they do. But when they arrive, they choose a really poor like camp. So they didn't have any access to like natural resources, and or like to their buddies over, all the like no access, like go and get men or anything like that. And so and none of the surrounding towns were willing to take Athens in and help them out. So because they knew this was a done deal at this point. And so the Athenian men, basically, they were starving, they were losing men, and also Athenian allies and men were basically began to defect to Lysander. So they were completely like, It was just really bad. And they also were they ran out of money in order to pay the soldiers. So they couldn't pay the soldiers.
And their povo.
Whereas Cyrus is over here being like, doling it out, like literally like ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Like, I make you rich if you become my rower. And so Athens was basically completely defeated at this battle. So they lost their entire navy, a shit ton of men, and basically they lost the Hellespont, which was really, really crucial to receiving the grain, which led to, so in 404, the final siege of Athens took place. Sparta and allies blocked off their access to the surrounding again. And then after, how long was it? So in March, after a few months, in March 404 BCE, Athens officially surrendered and the polis was deconstructed.
They did not march.
It was like Sparta's terms were relatively decent. Like it wasn't as harsh as what Corinth and Thebes wanted, which they wanted to like fucking fully destroy the city. They basically were like, so the long walls and fortifications were taken down. They removed all their garrisons from all the cities, and a public and a oligarchic sort of government was basically set up in Athens. That basically characterizes the end of the Peloponnesian Wars, with Athens no longer Athens as we know it.
We're going to a reflection segment next, but we'll take a short break, okay?
Yeah. Thanks, guys. That has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, hello guys. This is
the reflection segment. So this is when we get more philosophical about the key, what was important about the wars, why, like historian perspectives and stuff like that, and things that maybe you could touch on like an essay, perchance, theoretically, in theory or in real life. What? Oh yeah.
So we've already discussed that we thought that war between Athens and Sparta was inevitable, but we should probably catch up on why we think that Sparta won the war and not Athens.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, I think in my perspective, right, I think that the shift from what was initially a democratic state with democratic values to more of a hegemon was a big sort of factor in it, because the idea that you sort of pick and choose how you govern and how you treat other people is going to end up with rebellions and revolts and stuff like that. And I think that the rebellion, like the various revolts of the Athenian allies were indicative of the loss that they were going to face, because if you can't even take care of your own states and there's tension within your own league, how do you think that you're going to win against a war that is cohesive and collaborative?
See, to piggyback off of that about why I think Sparta won the war, talk about the political systems and talk about mainly the fact that most civilizations, a lot of civilizations, even like democratic ones, in times of war, there is a position that a person in power can hold. Oftentimes, it's similar to dictator, where the one person makes emergency decisions and stuff like that. Athens didn't have this. And we have to remember that Sparta is a military state. All of their politicians were in the army. They were trained militarily. So oftentimes, even though you had a lot of proficient military generals in Athens, one, they were kicked out, and two, it was still a collective decision on what they would do in the war. And so a lot of the time Sparta was able to make decisions a lot quicker than Athens, which is always important in war. And also Sparta just had decisive opinions on things.
Yeah.
So with Athens, there was always internal conflict about each decision.
Exactly.
Where with Sparta, there tended not to be, which made a lot of Sparta's decisions, they tend to be very linear, and they oftentimes kind of had one single goal in mind, where Athens was oftentimes at odds with itself.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw that with the by the end of the Peloponnesian War, by the end of the Ionian War, they had lost they'd lost the experienced commanders that had allowed them to be successful in the naval battles that made them so confident in the first place. They kicked out Alcibiades, they kicked out those two guys that didn't pick up the bodies. Like, it was very much like the things that the democracy, the system that the assembly, the assembly itself meant that decisions were constantly in flux, and which made not a very cohesive state, which is not very good when in times of war. And also significantly, so obviously there's a historian Lazenby states so that Sparta deserved to win the war because as we mentioned at the start, Athens and Sparta had their respective powers. So Athens was at sea and Sparta was on land. So if to quote Lazenby, if whoever was going to win the war was going to win in the other powers element, and so where Athens was not really ever able to do that, Sparta under Lysander and with the power of with the money of Cyrus was able to build a very successful Spartan fleet, so which solidified Spartans' military victory.
One must kill the other, for neither can live if the other survives. There's a quote by Donald Kagan, which is talks about the victory of the Peloponnesian. This is his viewpoint: is the victory of the Peloponnesian War was possible if adjustments to the new ways of fighting were important for the Second Peloponnesian War, but the Athenian democratic system made this change more difficult, which is just once again important. And then also this is another one, Donald Kagan, which is the second victory is only possible if Athens could be Sparta on land, Athens on the sea,
exactly.
Which is another one from Donald Kagan. So look at Donald Kagan if you're looking for quotes to do with this viewpoint that we're having right now.
And then in terms of some primary sources and opinions on it, obviously Thucydides, who we love and he was there throughout the entire movement. He did a very detailed documentation of the wars themselves. So we know that the losses from the Sicilian expedition were insane. However, Athens was able to continue for the other 10 years. So in reality, to quote here, in the end, it was only because they had destroyed themselves by their own internal strife that finally they were forced to surrender. So again, mentioning the political systems, I can bring in another quote by historian Hansen. So it was a belief of Thucydides that if democracies brought multifaceted advantages to war, their raucous assemblies, constant second-guessing, grandstanding, and hypercriticism severely hampered military operations. So where they were successful at the start of the war with a grandstanding, with a powerful figure such as Pericles, who basically was able to take control of the entire state and bring them victory, or Alcibiades, something like that. But the assemblies under the control of the assemblies, there was never a consistent sort of there was never consistent action, and always internal issues. So they were never really going to win.
Any takes, Lana?
Well, going back to was war inevitable? I think Athens should have probably expected that by having such so much hegemonic power that their allies would obviously revolt if they were taking so much power, and
It's almost like Athens revolts and stuff like that was literally just an expanded and more large-scale version of the Spartan Helot revolts.
Yeah.
They'd subdued this entire population of people, and these population of people was so much more vast than Sparta's. And the same thing
spread
happened.
out.
More spread out, and the same thing happened. People, because of obviously the Greeks, the amount of precedence that they put on autonomia and freedom, the moment that's taken away, you get bad blood, and with the bad blood comes almost just generally inevitable revolt.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's gonna happen. You have to,
With Sparta, yes, obviously they experienced revolts, slave revolts from their helots, but they were able to be contained because they were within the region and they weren't exactly expanding anywhere else crazy that forced them to, you know, turn their backs on the internal revolts. Whereas Athens just continued to expand and it continued.
Similar theme as Persia, may I add.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the reason that like a lot of this shit happened in Persia, like in the death of King Darius I, is because while obviously one thing is going on, you still need to put out fires everywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need to divvy up your time, meaning your force isn't going to be as large. And so with Sparta, because their time could be just kind of divvied up in one place, whereas Athens had to be kind of everywhere, it meant that their forces weren't as like directed and like pinpointed into one position.
Their attentions, Sparta's attentions was like pretty focused on minimal things, which allowed them to be the best at what they did. Whereas Athens's goal, like, and as we can, like, throughout the Peloponnesian Wars and the creation of the Delian League and the continued expansion across the, again, showed that Athens wasn't just planning on being, you know, like the hegemon of the Ionian area. They wanted to be the sole hegemon of Greece. However, because their democratic system was not cohesive and was not linear. Because they were experiencing so many revolts because they weren't consistent with their democratic like values. Unlike Sparta, who was consistent in everything they did, they couldn't maintain the power that they wanted to have.
Now should we do a little
teaser?
753 BCE. What was happening then, guys?
Oh, that sounds
crazy. Yeah.
There were some things going on in like Sparta and Athens and stuff like that, but at the same time, across the ocean, in a little shoe-shaped country known as Italy, there was a little guy.
His
And
name
the little
was
guy had a
Romulus.
brother.
Mm-hmm.
And
That little guy killed his brother.
their brother jumped over that little guy's fence, and that little guy went, "Fuck you, jumped over my fence, I'm gonna literally kill you, bitch." And he kills him, and then he goes, "I'm gonna make a city, and I'm gonna name it after myself. My name is Romulus, I'm naming my city Rome."
So get ready to tune in next episode. We'll be talking about ancient Rome and the trials and tribulations of the Romans and the formation of the Roman Republic. So get ready for that, guys. Get excited. We've had a great time filming this episode today. It's been a lot more cohesive.
Yes.
And
we're getting the hang of this.
We're getting the hang of it.
First episode, bit wishy-washy, but it's okay, because don't worry.
Don't worry, we're going to get the hang of this. It's going to be great. So yeah,
and
get excited.
we will have mics next time.
Yes.
Preferably, we can try and invest in another 2.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And
So-
if we have a special guest, maybe we'll have a special guest. Who knows?
So get excited. It's going to be great. We love you guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Mwah.